All right, folks, we're finally going to jump into the tutorials for learning the different tools of Illustrator. In this particular tutorial, we're going to cover two tools, the selection tool and the direct select tool. Now, if you folks would like to follow along with the exercise that I'm going to show you folks, feel free to do so. Head on over to the Illustrator tab in the class website and scroll down to the download section and click on the paths and selections.zip button to download the zip file. I've already done that. So once you unzip the folder, you're going to get two files in the folder, and the file that we are working with today for this video is the selection.ai file. So go ahead and double click on that to launch Illustrator. All right, here we are in Illustrator. Now you folks may have a different layout than I do, and if you folks have that Essentials layout, this is the default layout for Illustrator 2019. Now if you folks want to stay on this layout, that's fine with me, as long as you guys can follow along. The two tools that we are going to be covering today is these two. I personally prefer the Essentials Classic layout. And if you folks download my class lecture files, which are the two PDFs in the lecture notes area, right here, the PDFs have screenshots from the 2018 version of Illustrator, which is the layout that looks like this, okay? But regardless if you use Essentials or Essentials Classic or whatever layout you have, if you have your own custom layout, the tools are still going to function the same. It's just that things might be in different locations for people, okay? So let's just jump into it. First is the selection tool, which is the black arrow up here. The direct select tool is the white arrow. So let's cover the selection tool first. The selection tool works very much like the move tool in Photoshop. It selects items. Basic, straightforward, selects items. The difference is, and it works in conjunction with layers. I'm going to do a layers video after I show you folks all of the tools, or all of the tools that you would need to complete your illustration. I'll do a separate layers video for you folks after that, but for now, just quickly follow along. So as I said before, you could have a layer selected, like I have the shapes layer here, but Illustrator doesn't know which shape you want to work with. See, in Photoshop, this might have been just one image on the layer. In Illustrator, there's three different items on a layer, but Illustrator doesn't know which item you want to work with. So you use the selection tool to tell Illustrator, okay, I want to work with, say, the circle. You just click on a circle. Excuse me. So if you want to work with the green square, of course, left mouse click, and the triangle, left mouse click. So that's how you tell Photoshop, this is the item I want to move or work with. Okay. Now if you want to select multiple items, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So you either click on an item, or you can do sort of like a marquee select, like how you have the marquee select tool. And what you do is you click your left mouse button, hold it down, and drag. So you draw out a box, like so. Okay. By the way, to deselect an item, you just click off to the side, or you can click off in the gray area that surrounds the artboard. This is called your artboard, the white background here. And if you want to deselect something, you click off to the gray portion that is not covered in white. So if you want to select this, you could draw a box. Remember what I said, just hold down the left mouse button, click and drag, and you'll select the item. Now, when you draw the box around an item, say I want to select the green square here, you can draw the box around the entire item, like so. Or, if I want to select this red circle, but I don't want to draw the red box around the circle, because if I do that, then I might end up catching part of the triangle. I don't want to select the triangle. You don't have to draw the selection box around the whole entire shape. All you have to do is make sure that a portion of the selection box that I'm drawing out here touches some part of the shape that you want to select, and let go, and it already selects it. So if I just wanted to select the triangle, I can just select the tip, and I got it. Now if you want to select multiple items at once, you can either draw a selection marquee around both items, and you notice the bounding box here stretches out to encompass both items. You could draw it around all three items. Now if you wanted to select by just clicking on one item at a time, you can do so. You hold down the shift key and you select on the next item. As you can see here, the bounding box has encompassed both items. You know both items are selected because, as you can see, this it might be a little difficult for you folks to see, but there's a blue line here around the border of each item that's selected. And of course, if you want to select all three items, you hold down the shift key and click this, and you know all three items is selected because, as I said before, you can see the outline of all three items. Now let me deselect by clicking off to the side here. Say I want to select the red circle and a green square, but not the orange triangle here. So I'll go ahead and select by clicking on the red circle. I'm going to hold down the shift key and click on the green square. Now it looks like all three items are selected because the bounding box stretches around all three items, but in actuality only the red and green is selected. You can tell because once more I can see the outline for the circle, I can see the outline for the square, but there is no outline unless I hover my selection tool above the shape here. There's no selection outline around the triangle. So if I move these items, you notice only those two move. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. Command Z or Control Z is the same in Illustrator to undo. So that's how you use the Direct Select tool. Now, just like the transformation bounding box, you could scale an item after you select it. But you notice that unlike Photoshop, it doesn't keep the proportions. Okay, let me back out there. If you grab one of the corners or any of the handles here, boxes that are handles, your shape will start to, become, well, it'll morph, I guess you could say. If you want to keep the proportions all the same and not start to warp your shape, hold down the shift key and click on one of the handles. And as you can see here, it keeps the shape without changing the overall shape. It keeps the proportions. So hold down the shift key if you want to keep the proportions, and don't use the shift key if you want to change the overall shape. You can also rotate an item by coming to one of the corners and hovering just around the corner until your cursor changes to a curved double-sided arrow, and you can change the shape, or I'm sorry, not change the shape, but rotate. Of course, if you don't hold down the shift key, you can change the shape, but holding down the shift key will keep the proportions equal. All right, so that's that. You can also use your arrow keys. Once a shape is selected, you can use your arrow keys. I'm going to use the up arrow key, and you might not see a lot of movement because it's only moving one spot at a time. If you want to do giant leaps, I guess you could say, hold on the shift key with your arrow key. So holding down the shift key, I tap the up arrow key, and you notice bigger jumps at a time. Left arrow key while holding down the shift key. So bigger jumps. If you take your finger off the shift key and just use one of the arrow keys, like I'm using the left arrow key right now, you make real small incremental moves. Right? So let me undo all of that. All right. So that, in a nutshell, is the selection tool. You could also create copies of selected items with your selection tool. So first you select your item, in this case the circle, and if I hold down the Option key or Alt key for you Windows users, and then left mouse click and drag, I'll create a duplicate of that shape. Okay, and if I hold it down once more and drag, left mouse click and drag, and you can keep creating duplicates as much as you want. Always holding down the Option key, left mouse click and drag. Let me undo that. So that, if you folks watched, you folks probably might have watched the Illustrator overview video where I gave the assignment and I showed you an example of one of the students who drew out a koi fish. This is how they created the scales for their koi fish. They drew one scale, then they held down the Option key, selected the scale, hold down the Option key, left mouse click and drag, and they created the scales like so. So if you're doing something like scales, this is a great way to do it. You can also make multiple items. So let me show you right now. So if I select all three items, I'm just going to draw a bounding box around all three to select all three. Hold down the Option key, left mouse click and drag. I could do it that way. Or if I only wanted to select certain items, so the red circle, hold down the Shift key and draw a bounding box around the green square. Now if I hold down the Option key or Alt key, left mouse click and drag, I can create multiples of just whatever is selected. So you're gonna run into, I guess I wouldn't say mistakes, but that's the one thing that bothers me about Illustrator is sometimes I forget to select the item before working with it. And you folks will probably run into this problem a lot as well. I do. I still do. And you just got to remember, you've got to select it to affect it. Okay? So, in order to affect something, you got to select it. And don't worry if you keep forgetting. I still do. It's frustrating, but that's how it goes, huh? Okay, now we're going to cover the direct select tool, which is the white arrow. Now, the white arrow is different in that you notice if I click, say, let's take the red circle for example, it has control points on the outline of the circle. Now this outline is called a path, P-A-T-H, path. Now the path has control points on it. Every shape has a path and control points depending on what the shape is, right? In order to manipulate the control points, you have to switch to the direct select tool, and it'll allow you to control individual control points or all of them at once. For example, you can see that I have the red circle selected because you can see the path is on, it's visible. Say if I just wanted to move this control point, what I would do is you can click on it and you know it's selected because I'm not sure if you can see. Let me zoom in. By the way, zoom in is same as in Photoshop. You hold down Command or Control and hit the plus button. That's the hotkeys. It's rather small. I'll show you folks later how you guys can make it bigger. But it's filled in. You'll notice as I hover close to the control point, it kind of enlarges a little bit. And it's filled in with blue, whereas the other control points are white. So you know that this is currently selected. With this control point selected, you can move the control point by clicking and dragging, left mouse click and dragging. And that allows you to change the shape however you want. Let me Command Z out of that. So each control point, or some control points, come with handles. As you can see here, there's a handle to the left and right. Some control points will only have one handle. Some control points may not have a handle at all. So if I come here to the triangle, let me move my artboard. Now remember, if you folks want to move around in your document, all you got to do is hold down the space bar and your icon changes to the hand. Left mouse click and drag to move your document. That's if you're zoomed in, okay? This won't work if you're zoomed all the way out. As you notice, this control point doesn't have any handles. That's because it's not a curve. Same thing with the square here. You don't have any handles. The only time you'll see handles on a control point is if there's a curve. Then the control point will have handles. And as I said before, it could have one handle or two. And what that does is if you grab one of the handles, you can turn the curve up or down, like so. You can also extend the handle by left mouse clicking on the handle and holding down the left mouse button and dragging. Left mouse click and drag the handle You can drag it off into infinity if you want to. You can shorten the handle, like so. So it's really versatile how you can use these control handles for these points. These are called anchor points, by the way. I say control points, but anchor points, that's the official term, is anchor points. And what they do is they manipulate the path, which is this blue line here. Or they manipulate the anchor point on the path. So they can actually change the curvature of the path line. Alright. Let me Command Z out. Alright. Now if you, just like with the direct select tool, if you want to select a particular anchor point or control point, you can either click directly on it, or you can draw a bounding box by left mouse click, holding down the left mouse button and drawing a box around. This probably is the easier way to go once your illustration starts getting a little bit cluttered and maybe shapes are overlaid over in one another. You might want to draw a bounding box around your control points or anchor points to select them. You can select multiple anchor points by drawing a box around. Say if I just wanted to select the top here and the right side anchor points, I could draw a box that surrounds both there. Now if I grab in the middle on the path here, you'll notice that it's selected because blue, the unselected ones are white. So if I grab in the middle of the two selected points and drag, you get that kind of shape. Alright. You can also hold down the shift key. And by the way, to deselect, same thing like with the selection tool, just click off to the side, you deselect. Now if you just click on a path, you notice that none of them are selected. But if you click in the middle, you notice all four are selected. It's kind of weird, huh? If you just click on a path, none are selected. But if you click in the middle, all four are selected. And if you try to move it, you'll move it just like the regular selection tool if all four is selected. What if you want to change the type of curvature? What if you wanted to turn this anchor point into a pointy point? A pointy point, like how we have here. And what if you wanted to change this point on a triangle to a curve like this? One way to do it is you come up to the tool options bar. Remember, just like in Photoshop, certain tools give you options for that tool. For this particular tool, the direct select tool, I just call it the white arrow. For the white arrow, you have two different types of anchor points. So right now I have this top anchor point selected. I want to change it into a 90-degree right angle like this. Just come up to this icon here, click on it, and voila, you have a 90, well, not necessarily a 90-degree angle, but you notice I don't have any handles on the side anymore because it's not a curve, it's a sharp right angle. Vice versa, if I want to turn this anchor point here on a triangle to a curve. I come to this button right here, and voila, I now have a curve, and which I can manipulate with the handles. I can extend the handle. A little bit tricky, but once you get the hang, you do that. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. All right. You folks may want to take a little time practicing with these two tools, because believe me, you folks will use them a lot. Now, what if you want to, you notice for my handles, if I move one side, the other side moves in the opposite direction. And although I can extend one side without the other side moving in the opposite direction, what if I wanted to change the angle without the other side turning as well? Well, to do that, you select your, first make sure you have your anchor point selected. Hold down your Option or Alt key, left mouse click and drag, and that's how you break the handles so that now they will move independently of one another. And they won't affect each other in such a way that, you know, like say for example this one does here. Oh, that's one bad thing about these, is sometimes it's difficult to break. I mean, not break, but grab a hold of. But as you can see here, you know, on this anchor point, if I move one, the other one moves in opposite direction. So you can break it so that they move independently of one another. And once again, to do that, you select your anchor point. In this case, I'm going to use this anchor point right here. Hold down your Option key or Alt key for your PC guys, and move either anchor point. If you can grab onto them, select your anchor point and then grab one of the handles like so. And after you've broken them, I call it breaking them so that they don't they're not moving in unison together. By the way, if you decide that you don't want to break them, you want it how it used to be, like this, then what you can do is go to this button here, click on, oh, I'm sorry, not that button, what was I thinking? Come back to this button here, click it, and it puts it back together again so that it moves in unison. Okay, so even like with this one here, it's broken right now. I guess you could say broken or moving independently. If I wanted to get it back so that it's like this again, then all I do is select that and come to this button here, which is the same button you use to turn a right angle into a curve anchor point. Click that and it's back together again. So to turn right angle anchor points into curved anchor points, click this button. And if you want to turn curve anchor points into right angle anchor points, click this button. And just like the selection tool, with the direct select tool, if you hold down the option key, alt key for you PC users, and you click anywhere in the middle and drag, hold down the left mouse button and drag, you can create copies as well. Just remember to select it to effect it. So let me hit Command 0 to fit everything in frame. Control 0 for you PC folks. Say if I wanted to make copies of this. So you hold on the Option key, drag, like so. And say if you wanted to edit this one here, just click on it. And I wanted to turn this corner into a curved anchor point. You could do so without affecting any of the others. So that's how the direct select tool works. Let's do the same thing with this one. Turn it into a curve. Let's break it. Hold down the Option key or Alt key. Grab one of the handles. Once you break them, or what I call breaking them, you can let go of the Option key and grab any of the handles like so. Alright folks, so that's it for the selection tools. There's more options available, but for what you folks need to do for your video, not video, but your project, what I've shown you here today is basically all you folks need for creating your illustration. Otherwise, if you folks want to learn more about the selection tool, direct select tool, there's a lot of tutorials out online. You just gotta type into Google or whatnot, Illustrator, direct select tool, and selection tool. Alright folks, so that's it for this video. Go ahead and practice this a little bit just to get the hang of it, and I'll see you in the next video.